Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with us today. We're going to talk about something that I think is pretty fun. And I know, okay, not everybody's going to think it's fun, and it's okay if you're like, this is just not, but it's something from the Bible, something that we don't talk about a whole lot in Sunday school, and we get to play with toys while we do it. So let me grab my bin of toys today. Now, this is a special bin of toys because this is my bin of dinosaur toys, right? And so we're going to talk today about dinosaurs and the Bible. Did you know that dinosaurs are in the Bible? You do now, right? If you didn't before, you do now. So we're just gonna get some dinosaurs out. If you've got some at home, why don't you grab them and play too? So I'm gonna reach into my bin and we're gonna put this guy. I gotta say, I don't know a whole ton about dinosaurs. I'll be honest. Some of you know so much more about dinosaurs than I do that you could be just teaching us about dinosaurs all day. But I know that this guy eats plants. Okay, so I'm going to set him over here. He's going to munch on a tree. And this guy, I think, and you know what? You can message me, text me, Facebook me, whatever if I got this wrong. But this guy, right, multiple brains, right? Doesn't he have like one and then one? Like so, which I always thought was kind of crazy, cool, but tiny, right? Compared to the size of his body anyways. And so, but they're neat. They're kind of fun. This guy I'm going to set down here because he's so tall. What else we got in my bin here? Volcano. Sure. We'll set that there. I don't think these are to scale. I got to say, like, I don't know that they're all right. But, this guy. Is he a raptor, right? I think. I know he would eat these guys, so we're going to set him off to the side over here a little bit. And what else we got? This guy. I don't even know his name. And this guy? He's got the cool spiky tail and whatnot. Let's get another tree in here. We're just going to kind of make our little dinosaur oasis. This guy's going to like try and climb the mountain. That would be neat. I don't know if you can see that with the tree in the way, but he's going to try and climb up onto the mountain. And what else we got going on here? One more. We need at least one more. See if these guys, I don't know who'd win in a fight between these guys, but we'll set them like that and see what happens. I feel like we need one. No, he's going to pick a fight. Here, we'll do one more of these guys. All right, there we go. Got all my dinosaurs set up, hanging out in our dinosaur little set here. Okay, and get that out of the way. So dinosaurs and the Bible, right? A lot of people kind of wonder, how does that fit together? Like where in all of creation did God make, or when in all of creation did God make dinosaurs? Because they're not specifically mentioned, right? But day 6 tells us from Genesis 1, it tells us that God on day 6 created all the animals that lived on the land, right? All the beasts of the field. And so likely that would be like where most dinosaurs would fit in. All of these guys are kind of big beasts that kind of roamed around the land. Of course, there's some flying dinosaurs and some swimming dinosaurs. And if they fit more in the category of birds and fish, they would have been day 5. And so clearly part of God's creation, God made them. We know from fossils that there really were these creatures that roamed the earth. I don't know if you've ever found a fossil or even seen one. As a kid, we went to Drumheller and we visited the dinosaur museum there, and that was really neat. But more recently, like last summer, my family was out, we were having holiday time. We were on one of the Gulf Islands and we were walking down a dirt road that leads to the driveway of the house where we're staying, and noticed on the side of the road this rock cracked open. And we pick it up and we look at it, and sure enough, inside the rock was a fossilized leaf imprint. We thought, this is so cool. How crazy is this? Just here on the side of this road that we've walked up and down many dozens and dozens of times over the years. All of a sudden, here's a rock we hadn't noticed before. Some split open in a storm, or maybe someone, dropped it off. We don't know. But there was this fossil. Kind of made me think back of when I was in middle school. We did a field trip down to a river, and the river was known for being a fun place to go swimming, but also a place where they kept finding all these little fossils, like different types of leaves and grasses, and some like even snails and things like that. And so we as a school went and spent the afternoon kind of swimming in the river and searching for fossils. And sure enough, we found a few as a class. And so I wish I had some of them here today to show you. I didn't. They all ended up going to teachers so that teachers could share with them other classes. But we're just going to have to make do with our plastic dinosaurs today as we look at what the Bible says about dinosaurs. So let's do that. We're going to jump into, it actually comes out of the book of Job. And if you may have heard of the book of Job. Job was a guy who had a really, life was really great, and then it wasn't, right? All his kids got sick and died, and he got all these sores all over his body, and lost all his money, and he had like lots of hardship in life. And as a result of that, he had a lot of questions for God, a lot of questions for his friends that were giving him bad advice. And finally, after Job was just sitting for a while, wondering, like, what does all this mean? What's it going on? Then it says in the beginning of chapter 40 that God began to speak to Job from a whirlwind. And in part of what God said to Job, we read this in verse 15. Take a look at Behemoth, which I made just as I made you. It eats grass like an ox. See its powerful loins and the muscles of its belly. Its tail is as strong as a cedar. The sinews of its thighs are knit together. Its bones are tubes of bronze. Its limbs are bars of iron. It is a prime example of God's handiwork, and only its creator can threaten it. That's pretty amazing. Could you imagine being out walking along one day and all of a sudden you saw such a creature? Like probably like a guy like this, right? Like look at that guy, right? He's tall. Its tail is thick and strong, right? Like a cedar. You think about it, if you spent much time in the forest, well, we don't really in the Okanagan have cedars like they did in Job's country back in more moist tropical humid climates. Like even on Vancouver Island, the cedars there, like massive around, huge trees. And that's, I think, more the type of picture that God has for us than just a shrub. That's most of the cedars we have around here, right? These little shrubs that, the trunk of them is really thin. But think of some of the big trees that we have around here, right? Some of the big pine trees, right? Some of the big firs and spruces. These trees are just strong and they're solid. And that's the image that God has in there of this dinosaur. Like it's so big and so strong. And you know what? God is stronger. God says he's the only one who threatens it, right? It's not intimidated by even little people, but it would be intimidated of God because God is so much bigger. And so it brings up, I guess, a couple questions that we might be wanting to think about. Okay, dinosaurs were real. Dinosaurs are part of God's creation. And God's not likely to say, hey, Job, I'm going to just make up on the spot some kind of creature as an example. No, God's talking about something that people generally understood existed. So then how does that work with Noah, who we talked about a few weeks ago, right? And when he brought 2 of every kind of animal on the ark, how does that work, right? Like, did Noah just bring everything but dinosaurs? Well, we don't know for sure. But I think it's pretty safe to assume that some dinosaurs ended up on the ark with Noah and his family, right? Because there's no reason he couldn't bring baby ones, or right, or even or some of the smaller ones. Maybe, I can't imagine this guy hanging out on the ark being a good thing, but we just don't 100% know. But what we do know is that when the flood happened, the earth changed. God changed the way the earth worked. Like before that, there was no rain. We kind of get the picture that it was humid and moist, and the plants didn't need rain for water. But then when the flood happened, Suddenly now there's rain. The heavens, it says, opened up and water sprang up. Like it changed. God changed the environment in a really dramatic and drastic way. And it was changed forever. And so likely, dinosaurs probably did make it on the ark, but you know what? Just soon after, died out, right? The environment was changed in such a way that it may not have been suitable for them to live anymore. And so we actually have animal species like this in our own world, right? I mean, we've got some like this that are species that, lots of evidence to support that, like woolly mammoths and dodos and other animals existed, but for various reasons went extinct. We even have a lot of species in the world today, right, that like these here, that are on the verge of extinction. One that's not on this picture, one that our family certainly spends a lot of time looking for when we're on the coast, like just when we go on a boat or we're sitting on the beach, is like orcas and other, aquatic species that are on the verge of, that they're just struggling to survive. And so whenever we see one, it just feels so precious and special. That those days where you happen just to be walking along the beach and all of a sudden, usually you hear them, right? You hear the little psh from the water spout and you look, or a splash as one. And it's just the most humbling and amazing thing to see. Here's this creature that God made that is so much bigger than us, like so much bigger than us. And I'm not a small guy, right? But it's so much bigger. And know that God made all of that. And so what I want you to do before we go today is I want you to spend your day thinking about some of the animals that God has made. That God is so amazing, and he's made such an amazing and complex and varied creation that with all these creatures that we can see, that we can't see, that we, even the ones that kind of annoy us but serve a purpose, right? Like mosquitoes. Other than feeding bats, you might think, what good is a mosquito? But it is part of God's creation, and it does serve a purpose. And so I want to make sure that we are people who spend our day just appreciating what God has made. And when we encounter creatures like whales, or if you're ever in the woods and all of a sudden you startle a bear, or just see one on TV, that we would be people who go, wow, God, that is big. I am small, but you are huge. Right? What was the word that in Job? God calls it behemoth. That's kind of its name, right? We kind of get the idea that it's this giant creature, which it likely was. Look at the description. But you know what the word colossal means? Like, God is colossal. He's super, super big. And we should just appreciate that about God today. And so, let me bring up our memory verse one last time for the month of May, right? From Jeremiah 32:17. Ah, sovereign Lord, you have made the heavens and the earth and dinosaurs. By your great power and outstretched arm, nothing is too hard for you. That's Jeremiah 32:17. A couple activities for you today before we go. Beyond just encouraging you to live with a sense of appreciation for God, in your field notes today, all right, if you want to tackle this one, we have the color schemes are guesses. Why don't you draw your own dinosaur? This guy looks so friendly and cute. Why don't you give him a paint job there, some things to read through and think about. And then for the older ones, some questions about Behemoth, the colossal beast. All right, see if you can figure them out. Look back at Job 40 and see how does God describe him. All right, and then there's just some good dinosaur facts there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you next week.